someone is trying to call you.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, he's right on time this time. Hello? Yeah. We're doing the graphic across the screen. But what do you got on tap for this week for this show? For the shows this week, I mean, you know, last week we had Donald Trump wearing a gorilla mask, carrying a gun, following James Comey through the streets of through Times Square, and you sent Comey down the storm drain, and then sent Trump down the storm drain after him, and told Trump that he should look underwater and keep his head underwater for about 3 minutes, and he'd catch Comey and be able to shoot him. He came back up, lungs about half full of water. He told him, no. Did I say 3? You need to go back under and look again, and this time do it for about 5 minutes. No, better to be on the safe side and make it 10 minutes. So we'll find out this week what that's all about and how that turned out. Oh, welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. Today we have a very special guest, a gentleman running for the mayor of Danbury against Mark Boughton. His name is Almeida, and I will let him introduce himself and tell you who he is, where he came from, and what brought him to this place and time. Al.
Dave, thanks for having me on the show. I'm an immigrant from Portugal. I came here when I was 11 years old. I attended the public schools here in Danbury to include being a graduate from Henry Abbott Technical School. I went on to join the military, spent 38, still counting, years of service. I got married, got divorced, raised a family, received a bachelor's degree from Western Connecticut State University in criminal justice. I also went on later on in my career to get a master's degree in Homeland Security and Leadership from the University of Connecticut. I currently work and have been working at the Public Defender's Office for the past 24 years. Basically, my life has been a lifetime service to the public, to the people of our nation, our city, and our federal, and our nation, and our state.
You certainly got your bona fides lined up pretty well there.
Well, yes, and I believe that everything that I've done up to today is really setting me up successfully to go on this run against the mayor. I also spent 2 tours in Iraq, 2 long years, unfortunately, but it is what it is. I'm proud of my service to our nation, and let's see what happens.
We have another good friend, Progressive Soup, that's been here with 8 or 9 times, Michael Zakea, United States Marine Corps retired, that's been here talking a lot about Iraq. He was in the Second Battle of Fallujah and saw carnage like nobody but somebody that serves their country in wartime can even imagine.
I was one of the first forces going into Fallujah in 2003, so I understand the whole concept of what Fallujah was. Spent numerous months in Fallujah, the second time there in Iraq in November 2006 to November 2007. So I know the challenges that we had, and I'm glad that I'm here today to, go on my new adventure.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You've done great things for our nation and for our city. Now tell us a little bit more about the office you have now. What are the daily nuts and bolts of what you do? So
working in the Public Defender's Office, I work with individuals that have been arrested. We try to provide them the proper legal assistance we can, depending what that legal assistance is. Could be from getting them the individuals into a proper treatment program or some kind of rehabilitation process that's available to them. And we'll do the best we can based on the facts is in front of us.
That's pretty amazing. That's democracy at work. That's what makes this country great, is somebody having the opportunity to have a reasonable defense of themselves. It's what separates us from many, many other countries in the world where you're pretty much guilty until you have half a chance to prove yourself innocent. Or here you have definitely an opportunity to make the government, which represents us, make the case against everybody that's charged with a crime.
Very true, Dave.
Okay, now, Danbury. What's going on in Danbury? And how would you separate yourself from Mark Boughton in terms of what he's done for these years, what you would do going forward, individual situations. Tell us about Danbury and that separate yourself from Mark Bowden.
So one of the reasons that I'm running for mayor this year is that back in 2007, when I came back from Iraq, you know, I had a large amount of savings, you know, from my tour, and I needed to do something with my savings. Just like any normal being, one wants to invest their money in something that is be fruitful, that you're going to have a good return on your investment. I think property, real estate, is one of those investments. I believe, so from the time I bought my house in 2008 till today, my property tax has risen about 36%. And I don't mind the taxes being increased unless that I'm getting a good return on my investment. And I don't see that I'm getting a good return on my investment. The only thing I see is the last 16 years is increased taxes, property taxes every year he's been in office. And I still don't see a return into it. Downtown is a disaster. No one wants to walk down there. He's created an atmosphere downtown that people don't want to go down there. Now it's even worse with the OTB. It's a different story. Okay, I believe that I can bring Danbury back to what I grew up to be, and that is a vibrant downtown Danbury, making really the downtown the core, the heart of the city. Everything around the city outside is great, but it's the inside, it's the heart of the city that makes things going.
Well, folks that have been here a long time remember Feinson's, they remember a lot of great stores, and those stores might come back now that malls all over America are pretty much collapsing, it seems like. Malls they've served their purpose, and now but on the city raising money, on Danbury raising money, what different ways does Danbury have to raise money? Is there a threshold for what they can do without a vote?
There's a lot of ways you can raise money for Danbury. One of them is you need to manage your budget. And I really believe this year's budget, and this $250 million budget, I think what we call in the Army a lot of free chicken, okay? Which means there's a lot of money being in there in the budget that could be managed properly. The first place to start would be to eliminate the lobbyists that he has in Hartford to try to bring money back to Danbury. Our state representatives in the past 7 years have done a great job of bringing back money, more than any time ever in our history of Danbury. Okay, so they must be doing something right. I have been informed that this particular lobbyist is asking some of the state legislators to ask them how they can help, how that person can help them, instead of the other way around. He's borrowing more and more, creating more debt into our city. Currently the debt is about 77% of our budget, which is, I believe, the fourth largest, besides, you know, Board of Education, you know, the general government, and other things going on. So 7% is a lot of money. And before we can even balance it out, it would take us up to 2020, the calendar of 2020, before we can really balance it out to the point of manageable, manageable expense. So, and the thing is, you look around the city, the infrastructure is a disaster. There is no, pothole. I don't know where he's getting these people to pave these companies, but these potholes is getting bigger and bigger. And so again, going back to investment, and nothing on the return.
I'm thinking about 7%, and that strikes me because we know that your interest rate on a home mortgage now is around 4%. So I imagine that if people found out that all of a sudden their city or themselves had a jump from 4% to 7%, they'd be pretty upset. And I think that there's maybe a good parallel there to to a city being 7%, to its deficit being its debt being 7% of its annual operating expense. Thoughts?
How would you manage your money at home if you had a 7% debt?
Well, I'd probably
Get a third or fourth job.
probably the first thing I'd do is I'd probably cut up the credit cards.
Well, let me just tell you that Danbury, the people who work or live in Danbury, about less than 20,000 people in Danbury work in Danbury. Everybody else works outside of Danbury. So the mayor is crediting himself, patting himself on the back for having the lowest unemployment rate in the state of Connecticut. Why? People come to Danbury not because of what, some has to do with Danbury's offer and possibility and other possible great things that Danbury can offer. But the majority of the reason they come to Danbury is that it's closer to New York City, Westchester County, Norwalk, and Stamford, where all these other people work in professional jobs. So we also need to bring into Danbury some of those professional jobs so we can place our graduates from college here into a great professional livable income. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, okay. So what are some of these big bonds that Danbury's put out in front of the voters and the voters have approved because we needed to, because things needed to be done? What have they financed, and what have they been spent on, and what kind of return are we getting on those?
According to the mayor, some of those bonds has been for construction and redeveloping the infrastructure.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything.
Didn't the city buy a large school structure from one of our local churches who used that money to buy a building which belonged to another church? And when the city bought that building, I remember Lynn Tabersack mentioning this a few years back, the city bought a building, did no inspections at all, and come to find out afterwards that there was just an incredible, there's just about everything you could imagine. Lead, asbestos, the building was really in poor shape, and yet the city paid the church top dollar for the building, which allowed that church to turn around and buy the church that Mayor Boughton was attending at the time, which allowed the church, the congregation that he belonged to go and buy a bigger church, all predicated on the city spending a huge amount of money for this. Well, we're going to tell the audience, you need to go take a look at this and check this out and let us know, give us a call back, and we'll talk about this on a future visit from Al. But other things that separate you from Mayor Mark Boughton?
Well, I think I'm a proven leader. Right now, our city has a leader that is looking in the rearview mirror. I believe he's spending a lot more time outside of Danbury than what he should be spending time. I feel that he's getting a full-time pay for a part-time job. I think what distinguishes me from him, I think I bring a new, innovative, fresh thinking out of moving Danbury into the future.
You don't tweet a lot, do you?
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay, I was going to say because
but I pick and choose who I tweet, what I tweet.
Okay, because our mayor does a lot of tweeting, and of course nowadays we think of tweeting and we think of the gentleman occupying the White House as being the tweeter in chief and all the problems that causes. But continue.
But again, I have a plan in place that I have people working with me in my campaign it's bipartisan.
Yeah.
That we have almost close to a finished product of a plan to redevelop the downtown Danbury, to bring new businesses into it, to establish Class A office that is very, very necessary in Danbury to bring some other kind of economic business or other financial business into downtown. I'm even would propose to look at examining in a concept of building a hotel downtown Danbury, because I really believe that a hotel brings a lot of things. Just take, for example, if I'm a parent and my kid is going to Western Connecticut State University, and I come and visit them, and they stay in the Fairfield Hall or downtown White Street area.
Yep.
There is no hotels near downtown that I can stay with. I have to stay either on Mill Plain Road or I have to stay on Newtown Road. So, and again, hotels also brings other people into town. You know, being in the Army Reserves, I travel the country a lot, and I look at and I spend time, and I always look to spend time in downtown. I get in a hotel downtown because I wanted to experience that downtown atmosphere. And as I travel around the country, I see towns and cities that are equal to Danbury, and I see some great qualities in them that I want to bring those qualities into Danbury. So I have a concept, I have a plan, I have an idea to move Danbury forward, to make downtown the heart of Danbury.
Continue to expand on that notion. What type of aside from hotels and Class A office space, what else would work well with our downtown?
So if you are going to, if you go to Middletown, they have what they call the Main Street Market. You walk in that place, in the Main Street Market, and in the market has small shops of knickknacks of different things, to include a restaurant, to include a coffee shop. Along with it, the city has allowed the Department of Motor Vehicles to establish a little office there where people can come and get their driver's license renewed and their their plates renewed. So it's a service for outside of the Department of Motor Vehicles. As you know, around the corner here, you have to be there an hour early just to be on the front door, just to get in there.
And the state's got that going a lot smoother than they used to be. People who remember how the DMV used to be literally a 4-hour stay. Now they've got it down to an hour, but it certainly could be much better.
So again, that's another concept that I wanted to try to bring into downtown Danbury. Just, again, there's so much potential here in Danbury, Dave, that hasn't even been touched. And I don't think he's shown, I don't think he knows what the vision of Danbury is. I don't think he has a vision for Danbury. If he does, I haven't seen it or I haven't heard it. Okay, but the other part of it too is we have no government accessibility. I believe that if I'm the mayor, which I believe I will, okay, the office, the city hall will be open on Fridays. It's about taking care of people. It's about, you know, the people that need to get to do business. I struggle on Fridays as doing my job on Fridays. Sometimes I need to go to the police department to get police records, and I can't because Friday's closed. So he's preventing me from doing my job.
Which backlogs your things.
Part of it, yes.
Yeah, so it's certainly, you know, it's kind of ripple effect where City Hall being closed on Friday, which has been now for, what, 5-6 years, I think? It's been a while.
It sounds so cliche, that because that's when he started getting himself involved with running for state office. Because by closing, he's saying he's saving money. Well, if he's saving money, then why are we increasing taxes? Okay? It's not saving money. I've driven there by every Friday. There's still people in the building doing work. Okay?
And they're still heating the building, certainly.
Correct. Okay, so he closed it more for himself and some of his directors because they live out of state.
So it gives them a 3-day weekend to...
And sometimes 4-day weekends, especially for Monday is a holiday. Okay? The other part of it, too, is on the budget, too. I don't know if you noticed the budget, but this year, the police department's overtime budget is going to equal close to $2.4 million. Why? Because we have police officers, believe it or not, that are working 2 and 3 shifts in one day. So to me, I question that because it's not only a safety hazard, a safety issue for the police officer, but also for our public. That has to be. That means we have to get into the National's International Police Association, I think that's what they call it, that has an average pro rate. Through my research, I found that for the city of Danbury, we would need approximately 152 police officers.
And how many
right
do
now.
we have?
I think on patrol is 93.
So
98, I'm sorry,
so
98.
certainly cutting out a lot of overtime by expanding the police office to more, 50 or 60 more officers would allow us to save a lot of money on overtime.
A lot of money overtime.
Overtime's expensive.
For example, he just hired 4 police officers. Well, 3 of those police officers to cover 3 retirements.
So really, he only added one.
One, and there's that one is someone is coming up for retirement within the next 6 to 9 months. So again, what are we doing? We're not, and he keeps saying that crime is down. Well, crime is down because the statistics, the way they're being reported, is very subjective. So if I arrested you for issuing bad checks,
Yeah.
you have 10 bad checks. Technically, that's 10 different charges. Instead of, they collected everything into one.
Oh.
They put the larger amount and charge you with 1 larceny instead of 10 larcenies.
Right.
So and subjectively, you're only being counted for 1 instead of 10.
Okay.
So that keeps the crime down. I would tell you that the mayor can say whatever he wants to say about the crime being low. It's low on felonies, but on the regular misdemeanors, it's a ton of them out there. I know, I see the workload coming through the courthouse. So for him to tell me that the crime is right, I don't believe it.
Well, I think crime is pretty good. I mean, the crime rate's pretty low in Connecticut in general.
Correct. But if you have a good...
Not bad for a heavily populated with immigrants, and yet the crime rate is low because I think, contrary to what some people say, that immigrants commit more crimes, we know in fact they commit far fewer per capita than
Very true. Very true.
Than folks that have been here for generations.
We know, again, we want a law-abiding citizens living in our community. It doesn't matter what shores, what airports, what port you came through, okay? But the bottom line, we just want a good law enforcement. So
it's been noted in recent years when, particularly after Mayor Boughton brought in the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, that immigrants who had been very quick to tell on people that misbehaved, to tell the police about them, all of a sudden that changed dramatically under ICE, where they became hesitant to talk to the police because out of fear that the police would not be concerned with whoever they were turning in, but would turn their attention to those people that were reporting people that were actually doing something wrong.
You know, it's funny is the President Obama deported over 23 million undocumented. Okay, and he did it nice and quietly, without shaking any leaves.
And apparently, it was folks that were guilty of serious crimes, and he left people alone that were fairly
nothing has really changed
offenses.
with this current president. He's just become more voices.
Well, he's gone after more people. Well, he's gone after more people that have real, things like parking tickets and jaywalking and things like that, and they're deporting them.
But again, what is that creating those children of staying home, not going to school, parents driving them to school and waiting to make sure no one picks up that child, or it's a stress in our world. We're living in a very complex environment, not only just in Danbury, but in the state and in our nation today.
Okay. What else would you like to talk about? What other issues do you see as being important to Danbury?
I think education is our #1 priority. I think, I believe that everything starts with education. And the fact that the mayor this year has cut out Head Start, that's really is going to put a damper into our young youth. And the other part of it too is we don't have, we have about 8% of our 16 to 19-year-old youths that are either not in school or not working at all. 8%. So what are they doing? What is those 8% doing?
Hanging around.
I like to, under my administration, to create a summer internship with kids, with youth, to build them some character, to have some self-esteem, and hopefully get them on the right track to a better future, and keep them away from the streets and drugs.
That certainly would make the city a better place for all its citizens.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it, Dave.
Excellent. And tell me a little bit more about about your time in Iraq, because I find that to be fascinating.
So I deployed with the current the 411th Civil Affairs Battalion. It's right here in Danbury. In the March 2003 to March 2004. Basically, our jobs, both of my tours, was mostly humanitarian assistance, nation building, helping establish at the beginning of the war, establishing a local government, finding potential candidates within their neighborhoods, just like we have our city council here in Danbury. Look for those leaders that display some type, those individuals display some type of leadership, and bring them into the fold to be part of the future of the generation of New Iraq and government.
Very similar to what we're looking for here, I think, in Danbury, and really, in fact, in every city, in every town, in every country throughout the entire world.
We have some great people in this nation, and right here in Danbury, we have some great people here with wealth of knowledge. Why they don't come out, I don't know. But I think with me coming out early enough in the Democratic side, I'm already seeing some new faces that we have not seen in a long time, being part of the movement, if you want to call. But I think a lot has to do with Hurricane Trump last year that is moving also towards that direction.
He is certainly energizing us, and with that, we're going to have to say goodbye. Al Almeida, Democratic Party candidate for Mayor of Danbury, Connecticut. I'm David Stevenson. Thank you for joining us. It's been Progressive Soup.